Hey everybody, welcome to Effortless. I'm Spiegel. The Piddle's over there.
Hello.
I'm trying even less than usual today, so let's just do the show. So we're playing 52 games or something, and this week I played. Well, not this week. We actually gone 2 weeks without doing a show
52 games
because
in 52 weeks.
God, I don't know, whatever. I actually have put 40 hours into a game over the last 2 weeks. 40 hours, people. Do you know
What?
how
A
that's
single
so much?
game?
Yeah, a single game. And do you know what system that game was for?
Um, must be like
You're
PC.
No, the ever lovely PlayStation Vita, ladies and gentlemen, the much maligned PlayStation Vita that I myself have given a great deal of criticism to in the past.
Yeah,
Um,
you've
but I have been
you've torn
playing
into it a lot.
I have been playing Persona 4 Golden, and it is lovely. It is a fantastic game. It is a great RPG, with elements that have never really been in other RPG games, such as hanging out with your friends after school and like joining the basketball team and not actually getting to play basketball. But
Now it's interesting, like Persona 4 or the Persona series in general just doesn't get much respect. I mean, maybe it's because it hasn't been advertised a lot, or maybe it's just because people don't want to play a game where you're, I don't know, in a high school.
I mean, it's a super quirky Japanese like RPG, right? So like I get it, I get that it's kind of a niche market already, but it's so deep. I
But it's
think the
very
last
good, right?
Yeah, it's super good. And unlike Pokemon, which tries to hide the fact that it's deep, this game just comes right out and is like, bang, you can do a billion things. And it's like, oh man, it's really overwhelming probably for the first 10 hours. So I could totally understand people not wanting to get into it. But I hung in there, and it's grabbed me, and it has not let go. Like I can't put the game down, and I can't remember the last time I couldn't put a game down. It was probably Virtue's Last Reward that I played earlier this year. Um, but that doesn't happen to me very often, where I'm playing a game, and like 5 hours later I'm still playing a game. That's
See,
just not the kind of gamer that I am.
now you know I have Persona 4 Golden as well, but your description both makes me want to play it and makes me not want to play it at the same time.
Yeah, you should be absolutely terrified.
Well,
What do you know? What do you know about it? Maybe I can help enlighten
I
you.
can't stand RPGs that seem to throw too much too quick at you. And then it's like, well, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, the
Like,
difficulty curve is a bit much. I was using a guide a little bit,
okay,
and it does help it a lot. Like with Grim Fandango, when you feel kind of overwhelmed, the guide really does kind of ground you a little bit and sort of give you an idea of what you can do, which is very helpful. So I definitely recommend using one if you're like a first timer, like big time JRPG. Like if you know the genre, you probably, can handle it. But if you're like me and you've never played a lot of JRPGs and like super hardcore ones, I mean, you may want to consider using the guide. And I don't think there's any shame in that.
fair enough.
But anyway, speaking a little bit to the gameplay, it's just like your average. As much as it's not an average JRPG, it's your average JRPG in terms of like the combat and everything. The enemies are pretty well designed. The dialogue is hilarious. The I expected to be more irritated by like the anime tropes that come up in the game, but I find them actually pretty endearing, and it makes me think that maybe I don't hate anime as much as I thought I did, because now I've had like very positive experiences with hand drawn Japanese style games. I've had a bunch of those positive experiences this year.
Tropes
So
aren't really a bad thing as long as they're presented well. I think people
yeah,
just have a big issue with tropes that are just, yeah, poorly done.
yeah, and I think this game does a really good job. It creates this world that I just want to keep going back to, and it also gives me the ability to date a lot of people, which is something I did not do in high school. And I
Oh,
currently have three girlfriends, and I'm working on a fourth, which I don't think you're supposed to do because I think it has ramifications later on in the game. But I'm kind of excited. I'm kind of excited to see what they are. So we'll see. Also,
interesting.
yeah,
I did not know this was possible.
for a lot of you listeners, this might be your first girlfriend. So
So it's
yeah,
like an
it give you
RPG, but
practice.
also a dating sim,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
with all the
exactly.
typical anime tropes. Like this
Yes.
sounds so, yeah, so much Japanime.
I mean, I would tell you to just drop everything and just play it right now, but you have enough on your plate as it is. Because what did you
Yes.
play? All these games that you played over the last 2 weeks.
Oh dear.
I know
Oh
you were
dear.
still playing Perfect Dark, right?
Yeah, so actually, I didn't give a review for Perfect Dark last week or a couple weeks ago, and
By
that
the
was
way, I'm
most.
not prepared to give a review for Persona 4 because even though I put 40 hours into it, I don't think I'm halfway done with the game.
And
So,
Perfect Dark, I didn't want to give a review because I only played it on Agent. I didn't play it on Perfect Agent at all. So the last couple weeks, instead of picking up a new game, I've mostly just been playing a lot of Perfect Dark still and realizing just how bad I am at it. But I've done over half the missions on Perfect Agent now, and I went through a bunch of them on Special Agent now too. And I it's really good. I love how much changes when you switch from agent to special agent to perfect agent. All the new objectives, you get to see new areas of the game, you get to do a lot of like new things. And I don't remember if we talked about it like a couple weeks ago, but one of my favorite differences was with Chicago Stealth. And in that situation, I also tried to beat the level in under 2 minutes, and realized you have to find a hidden item in the level first. Uh, you have to quickly get a hidden item, which is like the bomb spy, which is essentially like this little camera that's acts like a drone, and you can fly it anywhere, and eventually you can detonate it. So you have to get the bomb spy and then fly it into a big group of enemies and blow it up so that it kills the enemies and prevents them from locking a door that they always open if you sound an alarm. Or there's another later level where you're in Area 51,
are
and
there aliens there?
you tell me.
Did you just like wink like into the microphone and make a sound effect to like
Yep,
say okay? I thought that's what that was.
everybody can hear it, right?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'll add it
So,
in post production.
so
No, it's too much effort. This is effortless.
oh yeah, way too much effort. So in Area 51 later in the game, you have to on Perfect Agent, you have to destroy some files that uh, that are on like some computers there. But the files are on a computer. You have to destroy a computer that's behind a locked door. And the only way to get into the locked door is you have a, I guess what would you have a data uplink that you can connect to computers and hack into them with remotely. And in order to get to that file, you have to, there's like three computers in Area 51 that you can connect your uplink to. And they all like upload a virus, and then the virus like does its work and it causes something to malfunction. And so like one of the computers will make the lights in the area like completely shut out. So now the hallways are completely dark, which is actually a bad thing for you, but it's just like one of the effects. I can't remember what the second one did or the third one, but there's another computer that you hack into, and as soon as you hack into it and upload this virus, all the doors in Area 51 just like keep opening and shutting sporadically, like because they're all glitched out, and that's how you get into that room because it unlocks the door by making all the doors malfunction, and then
So
that's
you're describing elements that sound almost like they're puzzles. Would you say that's an accurate
it's
thing?
not really a puzzle. It just encourages a little exploration and it encourages you to do different things. And I mean, it's not like you're really doing anything vastly different other than exploring a little bit more of the level, but it just adds so much more character to it. Like later in the level, you have a facility esque moment from the original GoldenEye where you start up in the what is it, the vents, and you drop into the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
Well, on Perfect Agent or on regular Agent, you just like knock out this guy um, early in the level, and after you knock him out or kill him, you get his uniform, and you can put on his uniform. But on Perfect Agent, you have to make your way to these the locker rooms in the area, and the locker rooms, the doors are locked. Like there's no way to get through the doors. Like I think one way to get into the doors is some enemies might eventually come through the doors, but the doors are only open and shut really, really quick. And the other way to get in is you find a vent on the level above it, and you you crouch and you crawl through this vent, and then you drop down into the shower area of these locker rooms.
Are there people in the showers?
You would ask that.
I would.
They are fully clothed.
They're fully clothed people in the showers?
Yep.
That's weird.
Well, in the locker room, no one's in the showers.
Oh, okay.
So it just, yeah, Perfect Agent just adds a lot to the game. The only issue with it is like I suck and it's really, really hard. You don't
And
have.
I will be trying Perfect Dark soon, and then we can compare how much each of us suck at it.
Yes. Good luck playing it on Perfect Agent.
I guarantee you it's gonna happen in this 52-52. I've made a lot of promises about games that I'm going to play and going to share and all that stuff, but this is definitely gonna be one of them.
And I really want to play Persona 4, but I don't know that I'll get around to it for
No,
a
it's
while.
super long. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't rush into it. But
So-
so you ready for a score for Perfect Dark? Because I forgot about a game that I did not score
Yeah.
last week that I have to share.
I'll give it a score, and right now I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Wow.
I really want to give it a higher score.
That's much lower than I thought it was going to be. You've been talking it up like it's a 5.
Yeah. I really want to give it a higher score, but those controls, even on the Xbox Live Arcade version, because I'm playing on Rare Replay, is so
Archaic?
it's just bad.
It's
Like
not even archaic. It's just bad.
in a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, I guess you could say archaic, but trying to fine tune your aim, for example, is almost impossible.
I would not be a fan of that because that's the reason I'm not good at first-person shooters is because I'm not great at aiming. So, like, if I don't have that, I don't know. I might have to play some other first-person shooters before I get to Perfect Dark if that's an issue.
Yeah, like whenever I try to zoom in and shoot enemies from a distance, it's like it's almost impossible because of the sensitivity of the Xbox One controller. It's just a lot different than the N64 controller, and
It's too bad they couldn't optimize it for that.
you like almost have to use auto aim. If you're able to play this game without auto aim, I'm impressed, because I can't do it. Like I've tried. I thought, oh, maybe if I turn off auto aim, it'll be fine.
Did you use the rewind feature at all during those parts?
You cannot use the rewind feature for Perfect Dark.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So, and then like there's no extra health for you to pick up in Perfect Agent. I believe there's extra health in Agent and Special Agent, but there is none in Perfect Agent. So in Perfect Agent, like
Wow.
if like someone sees you and shoots you like 5 times, you're dead. And you have to go through the level all over again. And
Oh,
sometimes
man.
it's really, really frustrating. One of the ones that I got stuck on for a while was there's a level where you're on Air Force One, and yeah, you're on this plane, and like the first 2 minutes of that level, you don't fight anybody, and so I kept having to go through that 2 minutes of just like going and picking up some equipment,
Oh,
and so it was
man.
really, really frustrating
Yeah.
to constantly do that first 2 minutes.
Some
and
of
then
those
finally
some
get
of
to the
those
action
games
and
haven't
then
really
die.
aged well because of stuff like that. Like with a lot of games have like immediate checkpoints from where you died. Like when I played Uncharted, you would jump and you'd fall and you'd die like multiple times because the controls were not great. But at least it had the courtesy to like restart you like less than 30 seconds away from where you died.
Yeah.
But that's like one of those old game designs that has kind of died hard with the medium.
Yes,
I
it
think.
definitely has.
But let's move on because we have a few other things we have to talk about. I actually
I
have
have
two
to
other.
talk about the game that I beat.
Oh yeah, I've got two other games I wanted to mention as well because I did
Oh,
beat
yeah, go
them.
for it.
I don't think I ever scored them. Tearaway, which I mentioned on the last show, I think quite a bit. You know the one with all the Vita functions and everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, how'd
it
that
ended up
go?
it ended up being a very solid game. It was very enjoyable. It was unique. It was interesting. I give it a 4 out of 5 because I don't know. It never really challenged me or anything, but it was always introducing like these unique ideas. And Tearaway Unfolded is definitely a game that's on my radar now, especially with Until Dawn coming out on PS4, which I'm looking forward to. Um,
Until Dawn is already out.
yeah, I know it is, but it still looks really good. I want to give it a chance. So I gave Tearaway a 4 out of 5. I don't really have anything else to say on it. And then I also played New Super Mario Brothers 2 on 3DS, and that game is not
Ah.
good, and I hated it. and not because it was like supremely bad. I just hated it because it wasn't like it didn't capture my imagination like a good Mario game should. And we talked about this actually on a show that I'm gonna just exclusively announce here on Effortless for the two people that are listening. On the day Super Mario Maker comes out, September 11th, we're gonna do a Mario podcast with me, Piddle, and Nick, and we talk at length about every Mario game, every Super Mario game ever made. And it's awesome. It's an awesome show. I just edited it, and I talk a little bit about my thoughts on New Super Mario Brothers 2 and that as well. But I will just
Yeah,
tell you right now that it's
so do
just
I.
not. It's not very good. It's just a mediocre Mario game that doesn't really do anything too interesting.
What would you give it for a score?
I gave it a 3 out of 5 because it's not a bad game. It's just a bad Mario game, and it's like, what do I do with this? Like, I'm not gonna go back to it. There's so many other Mario
Yeah,
games that I could go back to. Like, that's literally at the bottom of my list. So
I
I
don't think
beat
I
it.
would ever
I
go
beat it. I
back to
didn't
it.
collect a million coins. I barely played Coin Rush because I just wasn't interested at that point. So it was like, well, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, I'd sooner go back to Super Mario Land or Super Mario Land 2 or pretty
I
much
would
any
sooner
Mario
go
game.
back to New Super Mario Brothers, which is my actual favorite New Super Mario Brothers game, even though everyone else on this planet apparently hates it now. So,
All right.
those are my two games. I don't really have a lot to say on them. But what else did you play this week?
This you'll probably give me a little flack for,
Eh,
but I've been working gradually on my phone, and for anybody who doesn't know, I don't have the usual iPhone or Samsung or Android kind of phone.
yeah, you play all your games on a hacked flip phone. Is that right? Is that an
No,
accurate? Oh,
no, no, no.
okay.
I actually I actually have a Amazon Fire phone, um, which runs on sort of a
Fire, coal. It runs on coal.
it runs on Fire OS, which is a modified version of Android OS. So you can run a lot of Android games on it, but or Android apps on it, but a lot of times it takes a workaround. And so most people don't have a Fire phone. I do. One of the biggest issues with it is just that they sort of lock out Google apps from it, and so that makes a lot of people angry because people want to use their Gmail or their YouTube or Google Maps apps, and it is what it is. But one game that comes on the Fire phone is called Planet Puzzles, and
Sounds like a mobile game.
yep, sounds like a mobile game. It's pretty much if anybody has ever one of the more popular Android or iOS games that I can think of that people would know that this is sort of like is Flow.
Ugh. Blah. That game sucks.
Spiegel's not happy right now.
No,
He's
I
really
hate that
disappointed in
game.
me. And it's like Flow, which is pretty much you have to draw uh, a line from one dot to another dot, and sort of like a grid.
It sounds like homework I did in second grade.
Yeah, it sort of is. I mean, they're puzzles, and so you have to connect
Is it
like
like
colors
connect the
together.
dots?
No,
Oh,
yeah, you have to connect like colors going like through all the different boxes. I mean, yeah, it's a grid, and Planet Puzzle sort of takes that concept, but puts it in a 3D space. So instead of just like a flat two-dimensional graph, it's like 3D, and you can go around edges of cubes or boxes and in order to get from one to the other. And it tries to use one of the Fire Phone's features, which is like if you tilt the Fire Phone, it has these like four front-facing cameras to create this pseudo 3D effect. And I don't know, it was enjoyable enough. I finished all the puzzles in it. I got a fair amount of enjoyment from it, and eventually I just sort of hit this point where I could always sort of see the direction that I needed to go in the puzzles without having to do a bunch of trial and error. So, I mean, logically, I was working it through. Man, I don't know. It was fun. It was a little fun
so that's the
mind
game.
teaser
That's
for
the
me.
game that you beat.
That's the game I beat.
Okay, what do you give it?
The one game. It took me like a couple months to beat it. And
Yeah, but you're selling yourself short though in terms of beating one game because
I know.
you play like 15 games a week and finish none of them.
I know.
I
It's
play
really
one game
bad.
over 2 weeks and well, I don't finish it either, but I put 40 hours into it.
Yeah.
I have
We
trouble. I don't know about. Well, go ahead and give it your score, and then we'll talk about this.
uh I don't know, it's a puzzle game. And in terms of puzzle games go, I definitely enjoyed it more than I've enjoyed Flow, which I've played in the past. But when it comes down to it, it's a pretty shallow puzzle game. Um,
Sounds like a mobile game.
yep, sounds like a mobile game. So I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. I
All
mean,
right. Well, that's still more worthwhile than New Super Mario Brothers 2, I think.
yeah,
Um,
it definitely is more worthwhile than New Super Mario Brothers 2.
yeah, just don't even bother. Like, I can't believe I spent like $20+ on that game. That's it.
20, I think I bought it full price for like 35 or 40.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yikes. Anyway, so what I was gonna say was, I have a problem with playing multiple games at one time for some reason. I just never. It's not something that I can do and like be able to, you know, focus on all of the games. I don't feel like I'm giving them my fair attention. Like I had to stop playing Beautiful Joe, which I was going to talk about on this week's show because I got so enraptured with Persona 4 Golden.
How,
So I don't know what is. I'm going to ask Dr. Piddle a question. How do you do it? How do you do it, Dr. Piddle?
how do I what? Play
How do you
multiple
play
games?
multiple games at one time without being distracted? I mean,
Um,
not obviously not at the same time, but like within the same gaming session, you can put a game down and pick up a different one.
I I can't do it. I don't know. Actually, I guess I have done that more with Rare Replay.
Well,
And
didn't you just say you've been playing Banjo Kazooie and Gears of War Ultimate Edition at the same time?
yeah, but it's because I don't know how this new generation of like instant satisfaction or
Satisfaction would be
satisfaction
the word.
satisficate. Well,
I'm
I
boy,
don't
am
know
I
where
glad you
I'm
got
going
your
with this.
medical license instead of majoring in English.
um, it it's sort of like infected me, and now I'm at this point where like I have a hard time finding a game that I can just sit down and play. Like I wish I like when I started playing Persona 4 Golden that it just had taken over and that was the only thing I played because I have a hard time actually focusing on a game. I'm the
Background, you
opposite.
played Persona 4 for like 10 minutes, right?
I like play a new game and then I'm like, you know what? I really want to play one of my top 10 games of all time or something like that. That
Yeah.
happens to me all the time. Like I'm playing this game and I'm like, you know what? I want to go play Ocarina of Time again, or
Yeah.
I want to go play Super Mario Brothers 3 again, or Super Mario World, or that's my issue. I don't know.
Well,
And
oh well. I guess maybe someone in the viewership can answer that question because I don't know. I feel like I need some help in that area. I can never do more than one at once. And my wife is the same way with books. Like she can read several books at one time, but and focus on them all equally.
what?
I
How?
don't know. I don't
What?
know.
I could
To
not
me,
do that.
no. I can't do it with TV shows. I can't. If I'm in the middle of Seinfeld, like good luck trying to get me to watch The Office or anything new.
Yeah, I'm
I have to
listening to
finish.
one audiobook right now and I could not watch another or I could not like listen to another
Oh,
audiobook at
so
the
you're an
same time.
audiobook guy, huh? Me too.
I drive a lot, so
Oh yeah, yeah. You need it. It would.
yep.
Read anything good lately? Like, is that the proper way to ask? Have you read anything good, or do you call it listening when you're
I don't
listening to an audiobook? I
I
call
don't
it
know. Have you
reading. I
listened to
think
any
it's the
good
same thing.
books lately?
I don't know. That makes it sound lame.
Um, well, I guess so. I did listen to Ender's Game Alive, which is actually not even a book. It's an audio play based on the book Ender's Game.
That now
And
that's cheating. I'm sorry.
it pretty much tells the story completely through dialogue instead of having any narrator or insight into characters' minds because yeah, everything's through dialogue, and that was really enjoyable for me. It was a little short, but yeah, in the end, really enjoyable. They got like a full voice acting cast, so it's not just one guy reading a book and doing all the voices for all the different characters. It's actors for every
Oh, that's
character.
pretty cool. Although
So
I do like the people who narrate them and like hearing all the different voices they can do. I always think
yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
yeah, it is. Um,
Um,
So,
this shows all over the map. We got to refocus. Finish up, man.
oh, why not?
It's my
Give
fault, but
people some listening advice. And actually, the other one that I'm listening to right now um, is Jurassic Park, which is from probably my favorite author of all time.
Michael Crichton.
Yeah,
And
fantastic author.
yeah, a lot of you guys probably didn't know that Jurassic Park was even based off a book. You uneducated filth.
And the book is book in a lot of ways is way more interesting than the movie, the original movie. So
Yeah. But we got to do, man, we're like 26 minutes in this show. We haven't even touched on like half the stuff we
I
got to
know
do.
we haven't
So
even touched on like what we've been playing. Well, you've been playing Persona 4.
yeah, I've been playing Persona 4. You can go ahead with Gears and what was the other one? Banjo-Kazooie, right?
Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think? Because we talked about Super Mario 64 when we recorded the Mario podcast, but
So
what do you think in comparison to those types of games?
I've gotten about, I don't know, 3 or 4 levels into Banjo-Kazooie, and I've like 100%ed all the levels that I've done so far.
It's kind of hard not to do. You kind of really want to do it.
Yeah, so it is compelling in that way. Here's what I'll say. Like, it reminds me a lot of Spyro the Dragon for some reason.
Another great platformer.
And how, yeah, Spyro, you collect all the gems and all the other various things in the levels. So it reminds me of that in a lot of ways, just with like somewhat similar controls to Mario 64. Like, all the moves in Banjo-Kazooie are essentially variations of what you can do in Super Mario 64. And oddly enough, like, I don't like the controls as much as Super Mario 64. Like, you would think a game that came out 2 years later. It came out 2 years later, right?
I think the
I
problem.
think it was.
I'm going to go ahead and forecast what I think your problem with the controls are, and that is even though they're basically the same as Mario 64, the way that you do certain moves using the C buttons and everything, it's like, or not the C buttons. I don't even know what you use on the Xbox controller, but the way you would do certain moves is not quite as intuitive as it would be in Mario 64. Is that right?
It's not as intuitive, and
now I have to ask you, what do they use as replacement for the C buttons in the
I
Xbox One
think
version?
one of the other things I don't like is Mario always had a great sense of um, inertia, I guess you would say, and momentum. So like when you
Yeah,
move Mario in a direction and then you like quickly try to change directions, like he like digs his feet into the ground and then
he
turns
kind
them
of has
to
to
the other direction.
like do a little circle around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
sometimes it's sort of frustrating, especially in the Super Mario 64 because they didn't quite perfect it, but I still like that sense of inertia. And Banjo Kazooie just feels sort of loose, and
yeah,
um,
I can see that.
it feels to me sort of like Zelda 2 did, where like I felt like when I was playing Zelda 2 that Link is like always like perpetually walking on ice. And I sort of feel like that with Banjo. Like sometimes I feel like he's like walking on ice. And I haven't even gotten to the ice levels yet because I hear there are ice levels, right?
Yes, the next one I think if you said you were 4 levels in that would be Bubble Gloop Swamp, which by the way the names in that game next level, I love it. But I think it's the oh shoot I can't remember the name of it. I want to say Everfrost Peak, but I think that's a track in Diddy Kong Racing, so never mind.
So what I will say about Banjo Kazooie is, compared to what I played of Banjo Tooie long ago, like I don't know how old I was then, 15 years ago. Compared to that,
So you were 30.
yeah, we'll go with that.
All right.
Compared to that, it's a lot of fun, but compared to Mario 64, it's not quite the same. They're different types of games, really.
Well, I love both almost
Yeah,
equally.
they're
So
they're different. They're completely different types of games.
you're making me
And
want to play Banjo Kazooie. I'm not gonna lie. I think that might be a replay for me this year.
and I will say that I'm enjoying it.
And then you also played Gears of War. Yeah, you've never played the first one, right? On the 360.
Um, the first what?
First Gears. Gears of
No,
War.
nope, never did.
So what are you thinking of this I mean, obviously the remaster is probably like lost on you a little bit, but what do you think of Gears of War in general? How far are you in? Out of curiosity.
I just finished Act 1.
Okay, so I really, really like Gears of War. It's one of my favorite shooters ever. In fact, it's right up there with Fallout and BioShock, um, as a 360 game. So I'm very excited to see what you think.
So I like it so
Yeah,
far.
good, good.
It's some things I'm a little disappointed with, and I think that might just be because they try to keep it very close to the original game, just adding new, like, yes, spruced up graphics. But in terms of the atmosphere, in terms of the style that the game is going for, like it's so dude bro.
It
I
really is.
I mean, I practically
But
expect these guys to start talking about Madden and drinking beers, and I don't
dude, it gets so close at certain points in the story too. It's pretty funny actually, like how over
like
the top it is.
like at some point just start grilling out and tailgating for the next football game or something. I don't know.
Like they're in the middle of a firefight, and he's like, "Yeah, man, this reminds me of the time I sacked that quarterback." It's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So it is. I don't know. They just it's unapologetic in the direction that it's going, and that's what makes you accept it as you play
Yeah,
it.
a lot of people will rip it for that, for being a dude bro style, but I totally agree with what you just said in that it makes no attempt to be like serious at any point, which I love. I love how over the top it is throughout the entire it like, and it doesn't let up either. Like you'll get further on in the game, like super serious hardcore battles, and they'll still be talking about stuff like that, and it's ridiculous.
And it's different from other military games where I feel like you've got these guys that are trying to be super gruff military grunts, and it doesn't come off at all, and I hate it. One example that I can think of, and it's a game that I really liked, but was Killzone 2. And Killzone 2, I couldn't stand how gruff like Rico and Vasquez and all those guys were. But yeah, with Gears of War so far, I'm really liking it, and I've liked how they've teased, like in the Act One, they've teased some of the bigger monsters in the game already.
Oh yeah.
So,
Wait till you get into the crypt, like with the mazes and everything, and there's a monster in there that's really freaking scary.
oh, one of the parts I did like, it was sort of tough, but sort of fun at the same time, was the Berserker earlier. Like I think it's probably the first boss in the
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
and it can't see. It just attacks
Oh
based
yeah,
on like
that was actually
sound,
that was the part I was talking about. I didn't know that was in Act One. I thought that was like a little later. Yeah, but
and
that's one of my favorites.
you have to like dodge out of the way and get it to destroy the doors. And
The doors, yeah.
yeah, I really like that part. So it's going pretty good. I know that this version has 5 extra levels that were in the PC version as well.
Is that right? I did not know that.
So it's got some new content if you only played the 360 version. And I guess those levels are actually pretty good. So, oh, the guns are really good.
Yeah,
I
they're all
love
really unique. Have you gotten used to the whole chainsaw thing yet?
sort of getting the hang of it.
We should mention for people who like know nothing about this game, you wield a gun and it has a chainsaw on the other end, so you
Yes.
can either gun someone or chainsaw someone, and it's awesome. It's really
Yes.
awesome. And people who hate this game because it's dude bro, like get over it, dude bro, because it's awesome. It's like so much better than your average like Call of Duty bro shooter type game.
Yeah. It is. It's up there with like I feel like with the 360, the big new IP was Gears of War, and with the PlayStation 3, it was Uncharted, and they're
Yeah,
very comparable in a lot of ways.
except Gears of War controls better and it is better.
Yeah, Gears of War controls better. Um, it doesn't have the same kind of adventure feeling that Uncharted has.
Even though both are extremely linear games.
Yeah.
Like everyone has the same experience playing through these games.
So I don't know. It's really enjoyable so far. I'm glad that I got it because now I get to experience all the games. Because eventually, I think come November, I get to download the other games for free, the
Yeah.
360 versions.
Yeah. But we need to wrap our thoughts on this because
Yeah.
we're taking way too long. We have like two more topics to talk
Yeah.
about, and I'm afraid
And
that
I'm only in the very beginning of this.
bucket list is like gonna go like for the rest of the show. But I don't know. Maybe we'll put off NX talk for another week.
We've been
Yet
putting it off
another
for
week.
months.
I know. But let's do bucket list real quick. So we introduced this feature in the last show, and we added games to our personal gaming bucket lists. I did Super Mario 64, and you
Hmm.
did Pokemon Red and Blue, right?
Yes.
So let's go ahead and add another game. Neither of these games this week are for the kiddies. So if you're a kiddie, I don't know, turn off the show or something, or skip ahead like 15 minutes, because that's probably how long we're going to spend talking about this. Anyway,
We just talked about Gears of War, so
yeah. Well, that wasn't yours. Oh yeah. All right. Well,
yeah.
whatever. Anyway, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Uh, you can go first.
All right. So my game is for the bucket list. Can I get a drum roll? No, I
don't know.
can't because I'm not going to put any sound effects in this because that would require too much effort. This is effortless. My game is Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 for the Nintendo
What a
GameCube,
great game.
PS2, Nintendo Wii. I think it was on PC as well.
And now
Lots
it's
of
on
platforms.
PlayStation 3 and PlayStation or Xbox 360, and it's
Is it?
I don't
I
know.
didn't know that. Well, anyway, Resident Evil 4 is an incredible game. If you have not played it, it is literally one of my favorite games of all time. It is a masterpiece of survival horror. Although a lot of survival horror purists will tell you that it is too action oriented, I argue that it is actually the perfect blend of survival horror and action elements. Because while you never really run out of ammunition, there are moments when you are worried that you are going to, and it causes you to try to save that ammunition as best you can. So it's kind of like survival horror anyway.
Yeah,
The graphics in the game are probably the best on GameCube still. Although not many games have been
it
released
looks
for not many
amazing,
games have been released for GameCube between 2005 and today. But at any rate, still the best looking game on GameCube.
and it still looks amazing today.
Yes, it does. It's beautiful. The atmosphere is fantastic. The monsters are freaking crazy and scary, and the game is just packed full of these intense moments that just make you sweat. Like your hands are sweating on the controller. And I can't remember, Piddle, was it you who doesn't really love the survival horror games? Because
I can't stand survival horror games, but Resident Evil 4 I got it was probably like the very first sort of survival horror-ish game that I ever made my way all the way through. It was that good.
yeah, and that was actually probably my first survival horror game because I heard so many good things about it. I just turned 17. My parents were letting me buy whatever I wanted. I'm like, I want Resident Evil 4. So that's what I got. And that's it. I add that to the bucket list. Bucket listed. Go play Resident Evil 4.
That's
What's
a
yours?
really good one.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk about it all day.
It's a masterpiece of third person shooting. And it was originally a GameCube exclusive, which people like to forget about.
One of the things I'd
So,
like to point out with it is, oh, well, and can we talk about the best version of the game?
well, do we have another 20 minutes to talk about the Wii version?
Yeah, the Wii version is definitely the best version of the game. Love the Wii version.
Which is even funnier if you think about it. That a Wii version of anything can be the best of anything.
Isn't that odd?
Yeah, it is. But it's
But I,
cool, though.
yeah, I love the Wii version. I think also compared to Resident Evil 5 and other sort of games that have tried to go in that direction, one of the good things about Resident Evil 4 is when you do shoot and aim, you are completely stationary.
Yeah, I had
And
a friend who I introduced to that game, and he hated that mechanic. And I'm like, "What? You play? This was like my first real shooter too, actually. And aside from like Metroid Prime, and I'm like, what? You play shooter games where you can move and shoot? That's lame.
and well, like one of the brilliant things about it is it adds so much more tension to the game. The game is really like that first moment in where you go into the village.
Oh,
I mean, how many times could you just play
iconic.
that game and just start the beginning sequence and play through the beginning sequence
You're
over
making
and
me
over
want
and
to do it
over
right
again?
now.
Because I mean, it could just take like 20, 30 minutes to do. And it's a nonstop like yeah, like the game is nonstop. You run, you sort of hide, you like corner yourself off, but you have like one or two escape routes, and you sort of pick off enemies, and then you get overwhelmed, so you have to run, like go through your escape route, find a new place to like bunker down, take out more enemies, and then again you get overwhelmed, and you like that's what the game sort of was.
Yeah,
And
and
but then like
when you say you first enter the village, you're talking about like when you go and you see the guy who like drove you into the area, like, and they're
yes,
burning him at the stake. Spoilers,
yep,
and like, oh, it's so good. You're making me want to play it again.
yeah, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And
We need.
like as soon as you lock the like close the, you run into one of the buildings and close the
That's
door.
when the chainsaw guy comes.
Yeah, the chainsaw guy comes and it's like, what?
This
And
is going to be the chainsaw episode, by the way, because we've already mentioned chainsaws a number of times.
vroom vroom vroom.
Gears of War, Resident Evil 4. I'm going to go chop down a tree later, so there's that.
I feel like I need to switch my bucket list game practically.
Nah, yours is good.
Haha.
Go ahead. What's yours?
So my bucket list game is
Blah, blah,
the
blah, blah, blah.
blah 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 the wonderful PC game Half-Life 2. And if you've not played Half-Life 2, you owe it to yourself to play that game. It still is one of the best games that I've ever played. I've played through it so many times, I can't even count. And that's really saying something considering the game takes like, I don't know, 20, 30 hours to get through. It's a,
Question.
yes.
Um, we didn't mention this with Resident Evil 4 because it's not really that important, but do you have to play the first Half-Life to play Half-Life 2?
No, absolutely
No?
not.
Okay. Well, then
Yeah.
it just became a more attractive option to me because I have not played Half-Life 2, so I have nothing to add.
And playing Half-Life now is really not the most pleasant experience.
Okay, well,
But playing Half-Life 2 now, it still holds up surprisingly well. And there are some sections that a lot of people give the game flack for, namely the vehicle sections. And people complain that the vehicle sections last too long, which I don't really agree with because the vehicle sections are always broken up. Like, you'll drive a little bit in your vehicle, and then you'll get out of your vehicle at a place, and you'll fight enemies normally, like a first person shooter, and then you go back to your vehicle. So, one of the great things about Half Life 2 is the gunplay works really well. The enemies in the game are really interesting. Like, it was lauded as having some of the best AI in a game, like, ever when it came out. And the AI still holds up really, really well. So, it has that. It has that sort of horror element to it with the zombie head crabs. Um, and I don't really know how to describe it other than that. Like the whole game, there are no cutscenes throughout the entire game.
that's
You're,
really nice.
all the cutscenes are told from a first person point of view. There's there are loading there are parts where the game has to load the next area, but other than that, like
So
those loading sections are not that
it's
long.
not quite like Metroid Prime where the next area loads like as you go through a room.
Not quite. It pretty
Okay.
much it waits until you get to a moment where like you'll be going down like a hallway and it'll just sort of like pause the game for a moment and it'll say loading and then you'll start playing again. And if your computer's really fast, it'll take like 3 to 5 seconds. If your computer's a little slower, it might take I know I mean when it first came out it might have taken like 45 seconds to a minute long. But like nowadays on most modern computers it'll take no time at all. And it I don't like I can't talk about Half-Life 2 enough. It's a game you have to experience for yourself. Again, yeah, you're constantly in the perspective of Gordon Freeman. You're never taken out of his perspective. You have zombie head crabs, so you have a little horror element there and one of the it has one of the best moments in games or gaming history, I think, when you go to the city of Ravenholm and there's just
Do
so
you want
much
to spoil this for
atmosphere.
me right now?
I can't spoil it for you.
Okay.
But it's sort of early in the game. I mean, not too early in the game, but sort of early, and I don't know. It culminates really well too, like the
Nice.
end of the game. Even though it doesn't come to a complete conclusion, it's left off as a somewhat of a cliffhanger. It's a satisfying conclusion.
But is there so there is a reason why people want Half-Life 3, right?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
the reason why people want Half Life 3 is because after Half Life 2, they came out with Episode 1 and Episode 2. And Episode 1 wasn't the greatest. Episode 2 was a lot better, I felt like. and episode 2 left off with like
Big time
just
cliffhanger.
a huge cliffhanger, like a bleak moment, like where it just feels like everything is completely lost and hopeless.
So, okay, watch this. Watch this. Here's a segue for you. Speaking of bleak moments and cliffhangers, we have
Oh,
been teasing this forever, and we are now finally going to do our NX talk. Nintendo NX, the new system from Nintendo.
that was a good
Nintendo
one.
is in a very bleak situation right now with the Wii U. Although I will say that it's been experiencing somewhat of a mini renaissance in Japan. Weirdly, because of the whole Splatoon thing, and Splatoon is doing
Hmm.
fantastic as we predicted. Um, so I think if there's a lesson to be learned here, it's that Nintendo needs new creative IPs. A lot of
So
them.
I have to ask you because I believe you've told me this before, but you work in a game store, correct?
Yes, I do. A game store.
So how often do people ask about Splatoon?
Never. But well, no, that's not okay. I'm exaggerating for effect. Here is a typical experience when somebody does ask me about Splatoon, which is maybe once a week. It's died down a little bit since launch, but back when it first came out, probably the month after, I got a lot of questions. Do you guys have Splatoon for Xbox? That's generally my experience.
Unbelievable.
That's generally it. And I still get the. Are there any Mario games on Xbox or PlayStation? I still get that a lot. Um, whatever. That's just the gaming public.
It's just like people just get it, buy
The,
Nintendo.
See, this is why I'm not a fan of the gaming industry where it is right now because it's so accessible. I've complained about this a million times, but I hate how accessible my hobby has become because now everyone wants to do it and nobody knows how to do it right. And I feel like such an elitist saying that. But
Nobody knows how to do it right. I
yeah,
love it.
so you can all suck it if you are offended by that. But anyway, so yeah, I do get questions
Okay,
about
so Spiegel,
Splatoon. It's definitely one of the most popular games with kids that come into the store. They go over to the Wii U display and they pick up Splatoon and they start playing it. But nobody's actually buying Wii U's. They just come into the store and they play the demo.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh well. But the point is that the Nintendo is getting their IP out there and it's very popular and the commercials are working. So
Hmm.
there you go.
I still think that they could make a lot of money in the toy market with Splatoon.
Yeah, I think so too. And they underproduced the amiibos too. They should be selling those.
I mean, the game could almost be free to play with purchasable clothing, and people would do it.
I would buy They need to sell Splatoon hats. They shouldn't just be like pre-order bonuses. Like I should see that in Target when I walk down the aisle. But anyway, so what were so we're supposed to talk about NX.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were trying to lead it there or not, but I have a list of things which we're not supposed to do because it's supposed to be effortless, but we should just go ahead and ask the question: what is NX? What is it going to be? Is it going to be a home console? Is it going to be a handheld? Can Nintendo possibly sustain 3 things at once? Because I certainly don't think they can. They can barely sustain 2 things at once.
Yeah, one of the things that people have been talking about a lot is that the NX is going to be both a console and a handheld somehow,
Yeah, I've seen that a lot, and to me,
or
the rumor makes a lot of sense.
or a unified platform. Like that's what I've been hearing a lot, and Nintendo said it before. Like they want to move towards a unified platform. So like getting the Nintendo Network ID is your unified account.
Getting rid of Club Nintendo and replacing it with whatever they plan on replacing it with, which I'm assuming will come to light fairly soon.
Hmm. And yeah, like getting everything under like the same umbrella.
And most importantly, connecting it to smartphones and PCs,
Ooh.
which I feel like is incredibly important. And we saw back in whatever it was March at that investors meeting with Iwata detailing their plan for connecting. It was like there was the now I've
Now
received
here's a question for
I've
you.
received criticism from our ZBN people about what this actually meant, but there was like on the side there was a big circle and it's like connect. It said like connection in the middle or something, and then on the left side it was PCs, smartphones, and tablets. On the right side it was Wii U, 3DS, and NX, their dedicated gaming platform or whatever. What was your question?
Here's an idea getting thrown out. I don't know if this would be possible or not, but one of the cool things about the 3DS is you have the Street Pass feature. Would there be a way to get a Nintendo app that does Street Pass off your phone?
I think they've talked about something like that before. When they talk about their mobile plans and stuff like that, like they do seem to want to continue to emphasize the Street Pass thing, which I think is very cool because it's huge in Japan, not huge here because nobody takes their handhelds out.
Well,
Um,
and we're just more spread out.
yeah, that too.
But
But I love the idea because everyone has a smartphone, and if you find, shoot, you're lucky to get one street pass if you go out in this city every day. But if you were to go out with a Nintendo app on your phone, who knows? You might get four, five, six, and that's just taking a walk around the block.
yeah. So do you think the NX will be a single console?
I do think it will be a single console. I'm also a big. Well, when you say single console, what do you mean?
Like a console that you play both at home and on the go?
Yes, I do. I think it's going to unify the two. I think 3DS and Wii U will continue to stick around, but only in the sense that they're going to finish up what they have started with them. Wii U especially. I think the NX will play both Wii U and 3DS games in some capacity. Although I've seen the patent that they had come out recently, and this is interesting about how they don't appear to be using optical discs for this console. I've seen everything from rumors about returning to a cartridge-based medium, which with flash drives like expanding the way they are makes a lot of sense.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
or also, and this is not an alternative that I would be looking forward to, digital only.
I
I've
don't
seen
really think
I've
that
seen
they
that.
go digital only.
I don't think so either. Maybe for like Wii U downloads, like maybe if you own the games, they'll give you like a free download code or something to get that on your NX. I doubt that would happen, but like that's a possible solution if you're going to talk backwards compatibility. If it doesn't use discs, I mean, you can't really have a disk drive, but
Yeah.
um, but anyway, so I think there's a lot of rumors out there, and it's tough to sort through all of it. And we have about 7 minutes to do it, so let's get all of it out there.
I sort of hope that they do a unified system, and part of that's just because Nintendo has a big problem supporting two consoles at once right now
Yes, they
by
do.
themselves.
They've always
And
had a big problem supporting two consoles.
yeah,
The thing was, is that they had third-party support behind it, which is why they were able to do it.
yeah, and that's like it's killing them with the Wii U and the 3DS.
It
Like it
absolutely
doesn't
is
matter
killing them.
as much, but the 3DS it started really poorly, and then it sort of came around and started doing really well, and they were coming out with a lot of great games for it. And then they tried to start putting their support behind the Wii U.
It seems to
And
me like Nintendo has like a 2-year cycle for each console. Like you'll notice if you look back, 2013 was an amazing year for 3DS games, but nothing came out on Wii U until August. 2014 was an amazing year for Wii U. Lots of great games came out on Wii U last year. Nothing on 3DS. This year, all the big games are on 3DS, and you have pretty much nothing on Wii U.
yep.
Nothing huge, I should say.
So I think like if they were able to release games and you're able to play those games both portably and at home, like Super Smash Bros. 4, except unified, so yeah, like your save file would cross over between the two. How convenient would that be?
I love it because one of the aspects of Vita that I've never really used because I don't really have a use for it, but I found really interesting was the remote play where you can play a game, on your Vita and it just streams from your system. And it's kind of similar to the gamepad, but with Nintendo's NX, if that's what it does end up being, maybe you can not only stream the game, but you can also maybe just have it on that little handheld device, and you can just bring it somewhere. And then maybe when you bring it back, the technology is like enhanced, and the game is like it's like you saw Hyrule Warriors 3DS, right?
Yes.
Kind of like that, where obviously the Wii U version is going to be technically superior, but it can run on 3DS. You know, certain parts of it can run on 3DS, and that's why they're able to release it. I think that's sort of the direction they're heading.
All right. So when do you think it's going to come out?
I'm on the record as saying, what I don't want to screw this up because I am on the record. I think I said late summer 2016.
Wow, summer 2016.
Late summer, like now-ish.
All right.
I mean,
I
does that make sense?
I'm
I feel like
thinking
that's reasonable.
I'm thinking more like fall.
Okay,
Fall.
so closer to
I
like
don't
a
think
Black Friday type.
I don't think late fall. I think October ish of next year. But I
Huh.
think it's definitely coming next year. I think Nintendo doesn't want to announce it yet because I don't think they want.
No,
And
it's too early. You have to announce it at E3 and be like, by the way, it's coming out soon.
yeah,
Like you can't do it now because they're still trying to sell Wii U's as desperately as they can. Like they
I
need
think
they need this thing to sell more units.
I honestly think that they just want to get rid of the stock that they have and sell it at the highest price that they can
It's possible.
and
Uh,
make the most money from it as they can. But yeah, I feel like they're just trying to get rid of their Wii U stock and make what they can off of it, and then 2016 will roll around. E3 will come around in the summer, and they'll say, "Hey, this is what we've got. These are the awesome games coming out for it, and oh, by the way, it's coming out this."
Zelda U, new Mario game probably, probably with like backwards compatibility with like Mario Maker or something, and then like there's gonna be a new Animal Crossing probably. Like think of all the potential games that could launch with this thing that haven't come out in like several years now that are kind of due for a release on Wii U. And those could be your launch titles for NX, which for me spells instant success, at least with Nintendo fans,
Yes,
regardless of how burned they feel about Wii U.
I don't feel burned at all. Wii U is one of the greatest consoles I've ever had.
Yeah, I don't feel burned either, just because I don't know, I bought it in 2012, so
Although
whatever.
I guess one of the things that I am sort of frustrated with is the complete lack of virtual console support. I don't understand why Nintendo can't manage to put together a good virtual
I
console.
think their priorities are just elsewhere, which is disappointing, but I kind of get it. I
But
feel
you
like
can
maybe
contract it out though. Like that's the thing. They don't even have to use up their own resources for it.
I
They could
almost
just
feel like
contract it out and get somebody else to take care of it for them
I
and
almost feel
just
like
get it out there.
they're spreading themselves too thin. Like it feels like they're everywhere. You know, they're on Wii U, they're on 3DS, they're trying to do Amiibo, which has been a problem. You know, they're trying to do all these things. In the meantime, they're trying to create games and create a new system that catches up to the competition in terms of like technological advancement. And it's just I feel like they almost can't handle it. You know, because they're a small company. They're not
Yeah, they are not as big as Sony. They're not as big as Microsoft. So
not even not by a long shot.
they have to be very conscious about like the decisions they make and
So in that
not
sense,
getting
I
too big.
understand Nintendo wanted to be a little more conservative with their approach towards everything, including Virtual Console. But at the same time, I also understand the frustration.
Yes. Well, that's why I would think that it would just make more sense to contract it out and not deal with it themselves. Just yeah, have somebody come in and do all the work for them.
So last question: What do you think is will make? Sorry, what do you think will make this system successful? Like what
Ooh,
in what how much does this system have to sell? Does it have to compete in the market, or does it have to be like the Wii and be like an outlier? Does it have to get third-party games to be successful? Like serious third-party games like Scalebound or, those types of games. Metal
I
Gear,
think
although it won't get that.
I think honestly for it to be, it depends on what we define as success. If we
Well,
define
that's
it
part of the
as
question.
if we define it as just like making money, I mean, they've been successful with the Wii U and the 3DS.
That's true. Although they're not making a lot of money, but they are still profitable.
But if we define it as competing with the other companies
That's more the direction I was thinking.
and like I think Nintendo I think they're in a brand name crisis. Their brand does not carry the same amount of weight that it did in the early or in the 80s and the early to mid 90s. It just doesn't. Like it's become a world of PlayStation and Xbox.
Playing Nintendo is no longer a thing, which we've talked about.
Yeah, people talk about their Xbox and their PlayStation. So for them to get that back, and we've talked about this before, but I still think it's the same thing. I think they need to have a fantastic online infrastructure. You need to be able to interact with your friends easily online. You need to you need to be able to talk with them, voice chat with them. You need to be able to party chat with them. I think you need all those things on their new system. And at the same time, I think they just need a system that
And
I'm
it
gonna
needs to
come
be
right out and
free.
say
It
it.
needs to be free. I think that's
Yes,
absolutely clear.
yes, it
If it's
needs to
if it
be
was
free.
the funny thing is if Wii U had gotten online right and it had been free and it had come out and it had a lot of great AAA first-party Nintendo titles, as well as the good amount of third-party support that it received initially, I think we could be talking about the Wii U as something completely different. Also, if it had had a different name. But
Exactly.
go ahead with your point.
Even though Miiverse has a great community, it's just
It's not the same.
it's not the same. And I'm gonna go right out there and say it. I think it is in Nintendo's best interest to have the most powerful console on the market.
That is an interesting statement you bring up because the last time Nintendo had the most powerful console on the market, it was called the GameCube, and it did not even. It was a close third to Microsoft, although
But it wasn't the
nobody was
most
beaten.
powerful.
Yes, it
The
was. Yes, it was. We've discussed this.
the Xbox had a lot more in terms of developer tools with
More
DirectX. Well,
developer
maybe
tools,
that's
yes,
it.
but the specs were better for GameCube, and the issue was that they couldn't get it all on one disc more than anything else. That had nothing to do with
Yes.
the actual console itself.
Yeah. So, well, I just think Nintendo needs when I put it in terms of like most powerful, I feel like they need a system that is not that doesn't hold developers back.
This might be
And
an
I feel
argument
like
for another
that is
day.
yeah, I feel like that's what they need. Like they need it whatever console they have, it can't hold developers back. They need to be able to if they're going to be able to port games, they need to be able to port them easily, and the games not need to not be completely neutered like they have been with the the Wii
Well,
ports that they've had or
those were pathetic
yeah.
excuses for ports, which were neutered on purpose, just for the sake of making money and cutting development
Well,
costs for those
it was
games.
the only way for them to even
They could
release
have done a
those
better
games.
job. They could have done a better job with the Madden games. Don't give me that. That's just EA cash grabbing the most popular system.
Or the Wii U even.
Well, Wii U is different because nobody bought it. But
Yeah.
but let me. I want to say one thing, but I want to give you the last word because I feel like I'd feel bad if I made this statement but didn't let you get the last word. And that is that Nintendo as a company is very small. Unlike Sony or Microsoft, they cannot afford to sustain major losses in their hardware division, which is why the Wii U has remained so expensive because of the technical specifications that are involved in creating it. How do you expect them to have the most popular, or rather the most powerful console without sustaining a loss and yet selling it at a price that is palatable for consumers? Because the PS4, as far as I know, is still losing money at $400 as the most powerful console. So Nintendo would
Is
have to
it?
create. I
Because
think so.
they've been incredibly this generation of consoles they've been incredibly conservative with what is in the systems. They're very very old
Well,
graphics
at any
cards
rate,
and
I think my point still stands. How does Nintendo create a console that is still, affordable for the average consumer, that attracts them based on their brand weakness right now? Can
you
they
know
even do it?
and that's one thing is I'm gonna say for and this is why they probably won't do it, but for the long term health of their business, I think it is in their benefit or to their benefit to take the loss because they have a lot of cash right now.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think
Nintendo has
investors do not take kindly to hemorrhaging money. I mean, look at
they
Sony's
don't
stock right now.
exactly because it won't. But I feel like in the bigger picture, Nintendo, like I said, is in a brand name like their image, their brand, their image is in a crisis right now, and it is completely falling apart. And if it continues to go at this rate, Nintendo will become a third party. I feel
It
like
kind of sucks that Iwata. I mean, it sucks that Iwata had to die at all, but it sucks that it had to happen right now of all times. Like, that's a rough time for this company right now. Like, I don't know how they're doing it. Like I said, I already feel like they're stretched really thin. They're trying to come up with this new console. Their president just died, and it's like, where do they go from here? I almost feel bad. Like, I've never really felt bad for a company before. Like, I feel bad for Nintendo right now. And I mean, I say that as I continue to shovel money into them, via my wallet. But whatever. Point still stands. I still feel kind of bad for them.
so. Maybe
And
I'm
I hate
wrong.
to end the episode on like such a downer note, but we got
Yeah,
to get going.
that's
Let's put a positive spin on it.
well. What do you feel like they need to do?
Well, I mean that's We don't have enough time for that. But I do feel like they can be successful with the next console. I just think they got to get third parties back on board, which is really not as hard as they seem to want to make it out to be. You know what I mean? They're always like, "Oh, well, third parties, they're just not interested in what we have." We'll make them interested. Bring them back into the fold. Say, "Here's what we're offering you now." Give them a great set of dev tools, like you said, and I think it can be done. And I read a thing a while back that said that third parties were initially having positive reactions to what Nintendo showed them of the NX at E3. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
but they
read
also
that.
said that about the Wii and the Wii U.
They
So
said it about Wii U. I don't know what they said about Wii.
I'll believe it
Wii,
when I see it.
well, yeah. So we'll see next summer. It's gonna happen, maybe.
Yep. It'll
Uh,
happen next summer. If it doesn't, I will be shocked.
well,
I think
you
everybody's
just said
expecting.
fall like 10 minutes
Well,
ago.
so I think they're going to announce it next summer.
Oh, okay, yeah. In my mind, there's no question about that. And we'll see what happens with the mobile games. I mean, I don't know. Again, I feel like it's an issue of them stretching themselves too thin. Their first mobile game, Pokemon Shuffle or whatever, already came out in Japan. I think it's been a moderate success, so whatever. Nintendo, man, this should be renamed the Nintendo episode because we frickin' dominated over it in the last 30 minutes here. But
You know what Nintendo needs?
me running the company,
Chainsaws.
yeah,
Problem solved.
they need more chainsaws. I'll
All
agree with
right.
that. I think that makes sense.
Yep. Just give Mario a
So
chainsaw.
let's ship some
And
chainsaws to
Pikachu.
Kyoto, and then we'll see what they come up with.
Well, they just no.
Oh,
They need a
splits-
chainsaw themed Pokemon.
They need a chainsaw Splatoon weapon.
How
Like
would
it
that
shoot-
even work?
I don't know, but like maybe that's like the special weapon. Like how there's like sub weapons and stuff. Like the chainsaw is the sub weapon.
I would really want to see how that worked.
Chainsaw, like you don't even you splat them and then like you chop them in half.
That'll go over real well.
All right, this show's over.
All right.
This is Effortless. You follow me on Twitter at Spiegelwe. Dang it, I need more followers. Thanks for watching. Something. Piddle, say goodbye.
Goodbye. Like, comment, share,
Yeah,
subscribe.
yeah, you can do that. Yeah, share. I don't care about the other stuff anymore. Just share it. Share it. We talked about some good stuff today. So if you have friends that like games, we actually talked a lot about games again this week. So, all right, this outro's going on too long. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.